Welcome to the show, everybody. What do you think of this brooch? Isn't it divine? Isn't it divine? I'm really into orange gems lately. I never thought I'd get into orange, but since I've been wearing this one, I realise that it complements my green eyes rather well. Don't you think? The green and the orange, I think, seems to work quite well. This is actually my favourite ring, although it doesn't fit me properly. That I discovered recently. I think I got this one from Secondhand Susie, didn't I, at the Vintage Fair? But I love this orange on me. I love the fire of it. So I'm looking out for a signature ring that I can wear in the evenings, because I do wear gems and jewellery to evening events and soirees, cocktail parties. I've never had a signature piece that I really, really love. So I'm going to look out over the months and years for one based on this design that I can wear all over the place. I'm sure you're as delighted as I am to read in the press. I don't know if these rumours are true, but apparently the Harkles have been invited to join Her Majesty on the balcony at the Platinum Jubilee. So we'll talk about that later, but what a thrill. Stay royal, stay calm, stay royal. First of all, I must do a little bit of housekeeping because it involves your safety as well. I didn't really want to mention this. It's a little bit unsavoury. There's some character, I don't know whether it's a male or female, but they present themselves as male. The latest account they made was in the name David Ospina, but he's created, I'm going to call it this character he, but he's created since my channel began about 50 or 60 accounts. God knows, it's different accounts every week. Sometimes 4 or 5 different accounts from this person on the same day pop up. And every time they have a fake name, a fake profile picture of somebody in the army, a pilot, a doctor, you know, typical kind of macho roles that would attract ladies, shall we say, and seem seductive. He responds to women's comments in the comments section. So they'll leave a comment for me, and then underneath he'll leave a comment saying, "Hey, how are you?" Trying to engage them in conversation. He says he's stationed in Afghanistan or wherever. And he'll do it about 50 or 60 times. Hi Tracy, how are you? Hi Molly in Milwaukee, how are you? Try and get into conversation. Now, in all that time, in all these months and all these accounts he's made, only one comment ever got through the spam filter system. All the rest go into my spam filter. So I don't know how this chap doesn't realise he's been wasting his time, because no one's ever replied to his comment on my channel. Maybe there was one time a comment got through and I saw he wanted to exchange email addresses and WhatsApp numbers. So he's up to something sinister. There's some strange motive because he's got fake identities, wants your information. But in all that time, I think only that one comment got through. The rest all go to the spam filter, because YouTube, I don't know how it works here, but they sense these things. And every single time he's ever done it, I don't know anything about it until I check occasionally my spam filter, and it's just full of his messages. And all I have to do is press delete all, and they're deleted. So they never get through. If you're watching this, my dear, carry on if you want. It's no skin off my nose, but you're wasting your time. But, you know, just so you ladies especially out there will know, you know, there are people out there like this who target you, who want your information, and I'm sure some of you are quite vulnerable. Don't fall for this kind of stuff, my dear. I mean, it's out there everywhere. If in doubt, don't. Even if you're not in doubt, don't give away your personal information, this, that, and the fourth. Don't do it. Because there are sinister characters out there who will take advantage of you, my dear. So I just wanted to give you that warning in case anything does ever slip through the net. But let's start with something really lovely, shall we? And that was Catherine's appearance at the Easter Sunday service. In fact, the whole Cambridge family. But it was such a treat to see her in her powder blue, or that pale blue number, wasn't it? Didn't she look absolutely gorgeous? Perfect treat for Easter. This was at St George's Chapel, of course, for the annual Easter Sunday service. Prince George looking very smart in his suit there, and looking a little bit more at ease than he was at the recent memorial. Charlotte looking absolutely darling there in her florals and the little cardigan. I love the way they were all a bit matchy-matchy for Easter. And you know, I'm not ever a fan of the headband affairs, the kind of thing that you usually see on the York girls. But Catherine's here was really nice. I thought it was very attractive. Wasn't her outfit perfectly tailored? Such immaculate simplicity. Nothing gauche, nothing shouting for attention. Just beautiful, tasteful royalty. in quite a contrast to some of Meghan's style. I had a lot of comments when we spoke about Meghan's wardrobe at Invictus. A lot of comments saying, such a great part of the problem that we'd love to help her with in some way is her silhouette, dressing it, Catherine seems to have the right idea or the right advice. Lots of you said in the comments that Meghan needs to employ some kind of foundation garment, I think, isn't it the Kardashian girl that comes out with Skims foundation wear? Well, I'm not saying that, but maybe some Spanx. Something to give her some structure to that silhouette, because it seems impossible to dress that shape. I can't figure out exactly why it is. Prince William looked so handsome, as he always does. Nothing remarkable. I will say, Charles takes far more of an interest in the sartorial, and he's got an incredible eye for it. And what I've really found interesting lately is that he's looking more kingly. And, he has a little bit more flourish, without veering over into dandy territory. More flourish, more refinement, a few more regal touches here and there, and attention to detail. And obviously Prince William's younger, but I do think when he approaches his time as king, I do hope he'll take a little more interest in providing a bit more oomph. Taking a look at some of the other characters, Sophie was very nice, I thought. She's such an attractive woman, she really is. I thought that was a really nice design there on the dress, and it matched the hat nicely, so not that much more to say about that. I liked it, I did. Lady Louise, I loved the dress on her, really loved that colour and the flow of it. I thought that was gorgeous, but I wasn't keen on the beret, dear, or whatever kind of hat that is. I thought it was like a button mushroom. I thought she could have done so much better with that, so that was a shame, but she's young, she's learning as she goes along. But no. Was looking forward to seeing the York girls, because it's fun to have a giggle, isn't it? I've decided that I really love the fact that they wear ugly clothes. Go with the style. If your style is wearing hideous garments, then go with that style and own it, and that's what they've begun to do, and I've begun to quite look forward to it. But sadly, Beatrice wasn't there. It's said that she spent the day with the Queen. That's who kept the Queen company. Beatrice, her husband Eduardo, and little Sienna, and also Wolfie, who is Eduardo's son from a previous marriage. So the Queen had a lovely day with Beatrice. She wasn't there, but Eugenie was there, and it wasn't as hideous as it can be, so I felt a little bit let down, to be honest with you, dears. It was somewhat matronly, I thought, but it was a nice cut that suited her shape, so at least she had that. And the headwear was very simple for a York girl, very simple. We didn't have any Teletubby action going on, so I felt slightly dejected about that, my dear, but it was what it was, quite simple. Zara, I don't think she really takes that much interest in clothes. She is Anne's daughter. I didn't like the bird's nest on her head. That didn't do much for me. I don't know why you'd choose that. But, and deep collars just aren't to my taste, but it was an all right frock. I think it's attention to detail that's missing with that kind of outfit. It was similar to when Meghan's outfit the other day, the white, clashed with the cream handbag. With Zara here, she had, a creamy collar with a more brilliant white on the hat, and then nude shoes, so there was no harmony running through the outfit. Do you know what I mean? You need to keep if you're going to do that, keep those shades similar to pull everything together, otherwise it's disjointed and it's not polished. So that's a bit of a shame, no harmony there. And rounding up on Meghan's wardrobe for the final day or two of Invictus, it said that she wore $38,000 of clothes over those 3 days, so most humble. A few of you have said, I said that I really loved her makeup. A few of you did bring up her eyebrows, that you weren't keen on the eyebrows too much, and actually re-looking at some of the photographs, you have a point. They are a bit heavy-handed, aren't they? But I think it's hard, the fashion, the vogue these days is for rather thick, dark eyebrows, and it can be a challenge to get them looking realistic from a makeup artist's point of view. But, he's being paid well, so he should have perhaps done a better job on those brows. The cream jacket, I thought, had very good shoulders, but, she seems to be going for this line of bunching everything up here, doesn't she? I think that's what everyone's noticing. The spandexy looking number when she was on stage declaring her love for old Harold, and the audience were in raptures, and it was this grand story of romance. I don't know what she was thinking with that. there's something about the idea that I like, that kind of 80s off-the-shoulder casual look. It's like the idea was there, but it looked like, it reminded me of the Chinese when they used to bind the chest of ladies in days gone by in ancient times. It was like, looked uncomfortable, everything's here with these two legs hanging off like a crane fly, that kind of, those sort of flies that just have sort of very short torsos at the top and then long drapey legs hanging off. That's what she always comes across to me like, which is a shame because it could have been pulled together quite nice. Then the Ralph Lauren combo with the Max Mara, all that nudie camel-y look. Well, I thought it gave her that pea head effect because her neck's quite short, so the turtlenecks don't do anything for her. It looks like she's being strangled with the sort of blob at the top. I don't think that's flattering, I'm afraid. And that kind of a nude isn't the easiest shade to colour block as she did. It looked kind of sludgy, like the colour of baby food, various baby food or baby vomit. And I thought the look was just out of place in the Netherlands and at that event. I felt it would look better actually on an American high street, walking down it with your shopping. It has that kind of breezy New York retro vibe, which I think would have suited New York a little better. Now, I would be disingenuous if I didn't acknowledge, and I know people won't like it, I'm here to give you the truth as I see it, and there's no getting away from the fact that Invictus was a huge PR win for the Harkles. They did really well, the media really loved them, and there's just no denying it. It was a great PR win for them. And also, because it is such a worthwhile event with many, many, many good points, it's not something that I particularly want to sit here and criticise and pick apart the actual event itself, so I'm not going to. But if I was to play devil's advocate a little, as thrilled as Meghan seems with Harry's success, I think it might begin to play in her mind that this was Harry's success. It is his baby. And everything she's done over the past 2 years, or they've done together with regards to Archewell, has not garnered half as much attention or blanket positive coverage as Harry's project. And I think somewhere deep down in her psyche it might remind her that he's the one with royal connections, that she wouldn't be anywhere without him, and there might be a little bit of resentment creeping in, if I was to play devil's advocate, under the gloss and the veneer of how much she loves him. But I could be wrong there. I could be very wrong, but it's interesting to think about that, isn't it? On the stage, speaking to the crowds, we saw her as comfortable as we've ever seen her look in the past few years. She was loving it. She was basking in the glow, but really she was basking in the reflected glow from people's admiration there for Harry's involvement in the project. And by all accounts, everybody there was very enamoured of Meghan. They were impressed with her. But one does ask oneself, well, what did she actually do apart from escort Harry to the event? We all know that she's an expert charmer. She didn't get where she is without some element of charm and charisma. But this was Harry's baby, and he's the one that got bums on seats and the world's attention. This was yesterday's news, so I'm sure you've all heard this about Harry and Meghan being invited to join the Queen on the balcony for the Platinum Jubilee. It's understood they've been invited to appear but can have no formal role. If they choose to come, and they haven't confirmed it and won't be confirming it, they will appear at family events, like the traditional balcony appearance, which is the most iconic appearance, let's face it, and the service of Thanksgiving at St Paul's. They won't be able to appear at the Troop and Colour or any central roles, which I'm sure would delight them because they're the kind of events that they hate, the boring ones standing around doing duty and service. So this just falls into their lap just the way they want it. And of course, I think that I didn't want them to appear on the balcony. But what I really didn't want, and I'm sure many of you chime with this, was the fact that it looks like if this happens, if it's true, if they do join on the balcony, we all know who's going to be joining them. Lilibet. It'll be the debut appearance of Lilibet. And I'm sure, like me, many of you don't want what is likely to be Her Majesty's final large family appearance on that balcony, perhaps her final one, in a 70-year reign. We don't want that overshadowed by the Harkle's daughter. And it's not little Lilibet's fault poor dears. If they were still beloved members of the working royal family, then it would be such a wonderful moment to have her there, as a first appearance. But most of us, I feel, think that the Harkles don't deserve that great honour to have that moment. Now, I know that lots of you will be struggling to comprehend this invitation and will feel rather defeated. And I can't lie and tell you that I don't share your feelings in that way. But to offer you a moment of consoling, I want to encourage a sense of calm. I want to encourage you to channel the royal spirit. And I also want you to understand something. This moment is going to be about much more than the current dramas. Cambridges versus Harkles, memoirs, this kind of thing. Dramas come and go. What seems very relevant today will not in 10 years' time, when the Harkles are in their 50s and they're not impressing the younger woke crowds anymore, and George and Charlotte are in their teens and becoming more relevant as the young royals of their time. Catherine and William will be striding into their prime, and I've no doubt will continue to be extraordinarily and increasingly handsome and more beautiful as those years go on. And age doesn't always signal wisdom, I've met some incredible old souls under the age of 10 years old who seem wiser than some in their 80s or 90s who have remained fools all their lives and known and learned nothing. So age is not always a guarantee of wisdom, but in some cases it is, and I would imagine that with Her Majesty, who was always an old soul and had it in her, that she does understand a thing or two about ephemeral moments, and that is why she is able to almost put the blinkers on and block out some of the dramas that everybody else revels in, because she's lived her entire life seeing these headlines every day and then become what we call fish and chip paper the next day. The headlines don't last, but royalty does. It's an unbroken link, a chain that continues. So for those of you concerned, I ask you to consider that this will be the last big moment of Her Majesty's 70-year reign, a reign that has touched generations from my great-great-grandparents to the little bairns that are in our family now. This is a majestic reign. And as I've often spoken about, the royal family, each individual member creates a tapestry of their life. And sometimes that big picture of the tapestry can't be seen until the final moments or after it's been spun. I've learned so much about the tapestry Prince Charles has been weaving over the past few years with all his projects. Many people didn't really pay much attention to Prince Philip over the last few decades of his life, until this sort of reimagining after he died, when people really looked at his legacy and the tapestry he has weaved. Prince William and Catherine are weaving their own tapestries with their projects that are close to their hearts. And even the Harkles, even though they're not royal, they're making their own little embroideries as well. I wouldn't say to call them grand tapestries, but fair enough, they're doing their thing. I wish they wouldn't have tried to associate it with royalty. I wish they'd dropped all their titles. But, they're doing their thing. We all weave a tapestry. But Her Majesty's done it. This is their final moment. If she wants him on the balcony with her, we've got to give that to her, my dears, without resentment and with an understanding. This is the final tableau of her reign. And if she wants it to symbolise something, then it's not going to be division, drama. She will want it to symbolise unity, love, family, grace. I don't want to come across as too wet or a bit drippy, but this is the way that I see it. We'll have to see how it all pans out. Remember, if he does come over, then it looks like he would have to swallow his pride and eat some humble pie with regards to all his security concerns and his legal action with the Home Office, There's no denying that it would be tacky in the extreme if the Netflix crew are there scampering after the Harkles. I don't want any footage of them at the balcony, anything that suggests that their behaviour has been condoned or accepted. But at this moment in time, all we can do is sit back, wait and see how it pans out. And speaking of the Jubilee, it's been announced that Her Majesty is going to play it by ear when it comes to her availability for appearing at events. they've got a new strategy where they don't want to let anybody down by promising that she's going to be at things. She plans to be at as many events as possible, but she has to take it day by day. So their new policy, of the palace, they're going to confirm on the morning, on the very day of each event, whether or not she can be there. Then she can't let anybody down. You know, you have to kind of expect that she won't be there. If she is, then that's extra fun, the cherry on top of the cake, if she can. And it seems that her mobility issues after her sprained back and everything are giving her too many unpredictable symptoms. Now, a little bit more gossip that's going to be in that updated version of Angela Kelly's book, Other Side of the Coin. They've released a few quotes from the book, and I've got to say, I'm not sure that I like what Angela Kelly's been revealing, but I'm going to make up my mind when I actually clap eyes on it. Don't want to rush to judgment. But first of all, she gives some insight into Her Majesty's behaviour immediately following the funeral of Prince Philip. You know, and Her Majesty had to sit alone, and those very poignant photographs were taken. Angela Kelly says, "I helped her off with her coat and hat, and no words were spoken. The Queen then walked to her sitting room, closed the door behind her, and she was alone with her thoughts." Well, I expect she had a really good cry, didn't she, my dears, in her private bedchambers or her private sitting room, she says. I expect she did. And as you know, during the pandemic from March of 2020, and it was Angela Kelly that styled the Queen's hair. She washed and styled it every week and gave it a trim when a trim was needed. So much so that Angela's team started calling it Kelly's Salon. And she says, "The Queen knew I was nervous, and during the first 2 weeks I was shaking. I had only done her hair once or twice before, while on board the royal yacht Britannia." Now, this is the bit that I thought had slightly bitchy undertones, but I might be reading too much into that. But she says, "The Queen was so kind as she advised me on the very specific way to put the rollers in." Wouldn't you love to see a picture of Her Majesty in rollers? "As I grew in confidence, I'm sure the Queen thought I was a professional and started shouting at me. 'Don't do that! Do it this way!' 'That's right, you got it, don't change it!' I was thinking, my goodness me, I need a gin and tonic. So while the Queen was under the dryer, I said to her, 'I'm off for a stiff drink because this is so stressful, getting it just right for you.' And Angela says that after a much needed rest, she then returned to the Queen's dressing room to comb out of her hair, ready to style, and said, 'I must have used a whole can of hairspray to make sure it lasted the week.' And apparently it stressed out Angela Kelly so much that she got one of her team to prepare a gin and tonic every week when she had to tend to Her Majesty when she returned from the dressing room. Now, it's quite a funny little anecdote to know. Let's face it, it has Her Majesty's blessing, this updated version, but I don't know. You know that I'm a bit old-fashioned, my dears, but as much as I like hearing these little insights, I'm not sure that I thought it's that royal to reveal that the Queen shouted at Miss Kelly and that Miss Kelly was so nervous, so struck dumb by the Queen's demanding behaviour and her very specific advice, which to me seemed to be hinting that Her Majesty's a bit of a diva. And she was so compelled that it made her hit the bottle. She needed a gin to calm her nerves. You know, I realise that I might be going over the top, but I'm used to reading accounts from Margaret Rose, Her Majesty's cousin, ladies in waiting, who wouldn't have dreamt of revealing such indiscretions. And I know they don't seem like indiscretions in the modern age, but the ladies that Her Majesty used to surround herself were. I mean, even the Queen's cousins, such as Margaret Rose used to call Princess Margaret and the Queen Ma'am. So I don't know, it sounded a little bit uncomfortable with me. I found it a bit indiscreet, but you know, maybe I need to loosen up a bit and just have a bit more fun with it. I know some of you have been missing Tip Jar Corner because I haven't done one for a week or two, but don't worry, we'll be returning. I just need to stock up on my charity shop finds, but thank you so much for the tips that you've left me. I got some nice little Easter treats from you in my tip jar, so thank you so very kindly for that. The truth is that my very local charity shops, I've raided them completely of all the good stuff, so I'm waiting for them to replenish. But I will be visiting the vintage fair soon. I've been stocking up on rings. My friend Secondhand Susie's been looking out for things for me. You've seen some of these, but I've also got about 20 other ones on the way as well. Because I'm going through a love of ring face. I think, I'd love to just wear them like this all the time. When they just look like sort of candy confections encrusting the hands. That's what I'd like to live my whole life like that, just dripping, my dear, in these candy-coloured confections. Encrusting me! But they're wonderful. I've got some really fun brooches coming up as well to show you. But didn't she do well, old second-hand Susie, with this one? Absolutely gorgeous. Really, really nice. We've got more gems and jewels coming up to show you. But I'll also be going on some expeditions to find some interesting artefacts from the local charity shops as well, as I usually do. Sometimes when I'm making notes or in my office or going through tax accounts, this kind of thing, I use little highlighter pens, little highlighter things. In John Lewis at the moment, they've got these, I think it was only a couple of quid, which are quite sweet. I'm just showing them to you because I might have mentioned in the past my obsession with artificial synthetic smell of grapes. Because when I was a child, I had a little eraser in the shape of a bunch of grapes that had that childhood smell of grapes, that you smell. And I like it whenever I get a whiff of that. And these highlighters are scented. I'm not sure that they're designed for children because you're not really supposed to go around sniffing sort of solventy type stuff, are you? So I don't know if there's solvent in them. But they must be designed to sniff because they're scented. And this one is great. And I was quite pleased with the smell because it does take you back. It takes me back to 6 years old. On a summer's day at school, looking out onto the sun hitting the field, and then you use your little grape eraser, and then your neighbour wants to have a sniff. So they've got grape in these sweet they come in little sweet shapes. I'm not sure how practical they are, but seem to be. What flavour was this blue one? I think it was blueberry. So sweet and juicy. Blueberry, apple. A lovely crisp green apple. Lovely, my dears. And this one's strawberry. Yeah, pure strawberry. Isn't it fascinating how they can get the scents just right? So I thought that was fun. 4 scented sweetie highlighters from John Lewis, little department store we have over here. See you in the next show, my dears. Stay royal, won't you, at all times? Stay royal and regal. And toodle pip, 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 pip. Toodle pip on the nip. Goodbye, my ducky dears. Goodbye.